All right. Hello, everyone. Hello, United Latinas, and hello, Jamie Goris. I'm
Hi.
so excited you're back. This
Happy
is
to be back.
this is amazing. Back by popular demand. It's a really big topic we got to last time, and we
You
ran
too.
out of time. Had some technical difficulties. Ran out of time. Did it all. Like good Latinas. But Jamie, thank you so much for coming back because I think this is a really, really important conversation for us to be having around setting boundaries and understanding the boundaries with our big Latina families and being that successful Latina that everybody goes to and asks for not just financial advice, but life advice and everything else around that. And we feel that sense of obligation and pressure to have all the answers all the time, right?
Yeah.
And especially you add that brilliant side of the finance. And I think it's a really timely conversation for us to be having around the holidays because I think it adds an extra layer of pressure to all of us of
Yeah.
being that successful Latina. And then it's the holiday season. And then there's all the expectations of the family. So I would love to give just a quick little recap of what we discussed before in terms of talk a little bit about those setting those initial boundaries with the family once they may discover you're successful or know it. And there's
Yep.
always I loved how the other conversation you mentioned, there's always those really difficult family members that pop out of nowhere. So maybe give a little bit of a recap on how you deal with that, and then we'll get into all the fun stuff about holidays.
Yeah, and I will say I have my cat is also here as a guest, so he might make an appearance from time to time.
All
But
good.
thank you. No, thank you again for having me. I really enjoyed the last discussion. It's always fun to share tips, and I love being a part of this community. I love helping women with similar or different backgrounds and really just love sharing stories and experiences. So happy to be here again. So where should we start? We start with dealing with difficult family members during the holidays. It's always a fun time of year. I love the holidays. I got Christmas is my favorite holiday because we get to eat and spend time and the holiday parties and the gifts. But we were talking about this earlier. There's always things that can be presented that are difficult. And one of those things is you love your family, you love like 90% of the people there. And then there's this 10% that you're like, oh, I wish they didn't come this year. Right. Because, whatever the case might be, some people are, you didn't agree with this. I think some people could be socially awkward in social dynamics. Some just don't think about how a question that they pose might make the other person feel. And so that could be very cultural, but we can talk about some of that as well.
So, so let's talk about that. Let's dive into that. How do you think that's evolved for you? Right, like as you've, I mean, because we've gone through in part one your story and your career, which is an amazing story from, and correct me if I'm wrong, basically like bank teller, right? Like to where you are now in private wealth and successful. Like how have you managed that, like today, Jamie today versus Jamie, a few years back, because you're still very young.
Okay.
How did you, like, what is it today that you've learned about managing those expectations during the holiday season of Jamie of past?
I think so. A big part of it is the work that I've done on myself and understanding what I wanted in my life. And one of the things that has always been important has been family and close friendships and really building on those relationships. Um, and I did notice, though, that along the way, when difficulty presented itself, sometimes I would approach it with blocking people out, or like now boundaries went from 0 to 100 where I prefer not to go to an event to not see or deal with the difficulty, and then I was missing out on something that was really valuable to me. And so it took some time to get to that point, to then navigate, well, what can I do? How can I face these difficult encounters so that they're not as challenging for me? And some of those things were really just thinking through, what are the things that I don't like when I go to these events? So you can sort of think through, if we're specifically talking about a family holiday, we talked about this as a Latina, right? There's like a multiple questions that you're going to get asked between your weight, right? The question about your weight, or there's a comment about your weight, there's a comment about your physical appearance, or there's a comment about, your relationship status, right? And it's those questions tend to make life difficult when you're at these events, right? So I would prepare myself beforehand and anticipate that these questions were coming. And there's different things that you could do. You could think about how you want to answer those questions, right? Depending on the person that you're dealing with. So you do have to put a little bit of legwork into it, unfortunately, but it is meant for you to be able to then get to your goal, your value of being able to see the people that you wanted to see at these events and continuing to build those relationships. So there's a couple different techniques, like gray rocking is a technique. I don't know if you've ever heard of it.
No.
It's a technique in which someone asks you a question, you become the most boring person in the room. So they ask you a question, you're like, give them a boring answer, and you pose a question back to them, and you let them be the center of attention in that conversation. And now you've not given them anything to deal with. We can't have nothing to grab onto, right? And now everyone's happy because you don't have to deal with their awkwardness. You don't have to answer their awkward question. And now we've shifted the attention to them, which is ultimately probably what they wanted. So there are different techniques. It's just basically, to answer your question, is a lot of what I've done has just been thoughtful around these events and prepared myself just from a emotional perspective on what it is that, how am I going to deal with these difficult things? I think it's sort of like putting practice in motion, so that you're not caught off guard. And now you're a little bit more in control. And you're achieving all the things that you want to achieve because you're there with your family. So hopefully that's helpful and that answers your question. But that, I would highly recommend it if you have a family like this, or situations in which you have to be at events, or you want to be at events, but you sometimes have to deal with difficult personalities or people who don't necessarily, choose their words wisely. Unfortunately, you have to deal with that, right? Doesn't mean that you need to recuse yourself from these events or situations, right? Why should you do that? You're a valuable member of the family. You deserve to be there. And so all you need to do to make the situation better for yourself sometimes is just anticipate what those questions might be, and then use these little tactics on the side to make you feel more comfortable during these events.
I love that. So it's almost like physically imagining those boundaries to a certain extent, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Having the experience before you have the experience, right? Like, that there's always going to be a tia or a tío or a cousin, primo, prima, whatever, that's going to step out of line or say something silly or do something silly, or, a tío who's definitely not PC. We all have them.
We all have them.
Or we have a father, mine.
Right.
Says lovely things.
Those are more difficult, yes.
Yes. But I think the anticipation and the expectations are really important, right? Like, if you, as we get older, we've dealt with these people enough that if you take a moment to step back, take a breath, and anticipate, and say, okay, this is what they usually say, right? And this is how they usually behave. So I can either get locked into the crazy, right?
Right.
Feed the narcissism or the crazy or the, non-PC comments or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Or I can anticipate it, expect it, and yes, it's a practice because it's a lot easier said than done, but try not to let it ruin my family holiday or experience, right? Which is, that's the hardest part, right? Because we tend to, there's always a trigger, right? They're going to trigger you and they are going to say something that's going to trigger you. But it's how do you set those boundaries for yourself so that you say, okay, I'm not going to let that trigger me. And I love that exercise you talk about because it's kind of like, well, if you become the most boring person, you're not allowing it to trigger.
Right. I
you.
think, yeah. And you don't, I think one of the things about people like this is that they're so predictable.
Yes.
They're going to ask the same
Yes.
thing all the time. It's the same question. So that gives you the opportunity to just sort of have the upper hand because they're so predictable. You know what they're going to ask. You can be prepared with an answer. Or again, you can become the most boring person in the room where you give them nothing to work with and they'll get bored and they'll move on to the next person. And you can just move on with your event. You can move on to the next person as well. So I think it's not necessarily not letting someone dictate how you feel, but it's just like not giving them any ammunition. And it's you preparing yourself for exactly what you know they're going to ask and, eventually having a better time because of it.
Totally. Yeah. I mean, you can't change other people's behavior. You can't change what they're going to say. All you can do is control and manage what you're going to say and your behavior, which again, goes back to all of this is a practice. This is a lot easier said than done. During the holidays, our families have, an innate ability to trigger all of us and just, especially Latino families. Sometimes you really are like, really? Oh, okay, sure.
Nothing is fault.
Yeah, exactly. You kind of want to go back to like a British perspective where they just go spot of tea. Let's just have tea. And there isn't, that's how my family, it never has been. We got to get it all out. It's got to come out. But so I love that of taking a step back and understanding how you want to show up to the event, no matter what they're going to throw at you, and maybe practice what your answers are going to be to some of these questions.
Yeah. And look, I think to some, this might sound like this is way too much work and I don't want to do this, but I do think that if you are dealing with this year after year, and it is really, I mean, you've got to get to the point that I was at, I guess, but I do think that if you are at a point where it's a breaking point and it's getting you to the point where you don't even want to attend an event, like I do, I'm always a proponent of practice, prepping. I love it just because you can show up fully and feel prepared, and you sort of organized your thoughts before you got there, and it allows for just this more soothing experience, I think.
I love how that fits right with your career, though. I think it's like a perfect fit, Jamie. Seriously, you're a private wealth, like you deal with, so like, yes, family is family and friends and family and like, or can be triggering, but like you're also dealing with clients and private clients, right? And you need to come prepared to the table with clients too, right? And you have to understand how you're showing up and that same sense of boundary with your clients, right? Because we've all had clients that have overstepped or said something, or a lot of times it's subconscious. A lot of times people don't even realize that how powerful words can really be and what they're actually saying. They just kind of say it, so I love that sort of blend between what you do for a living and how you address that in your career, and then how you address it personally. I love that you kind of are blending that because it's so important. Sometimes I think, especially as a successful Latina, sometimes I think we forget that, we become two separate people. Like it's the Jamie, that's the super successful JP Morgan Jamie, and then there's Mija Jamie, the Dominican Jamie. But really, the way you show up and the way you address things and anticipate things should be very similar sometimes.
Yeah, that's such a great point. I would agree with that. I think sometimes I don't know if that's cultural. I don't know where that comes from either. Maybe it is cultural. I'm not sure, but it's true. I did used to show up to work and be sort of a different person at home, which was more maybe domesticated or, whatever the case might be. Maybe it was the expectation of who I was supposed to be as a woman, as a Latina. And I think it took years to get to this point, but I think once you figure out what you want and how you want that to look in your life, it's about visualizing it. You'll realize that the way that you handle yourself in one place should be the way that you handle yourself in the other. Why should there be a separate version of you in each area of life? Yes, there may be some things that are, you're using less of, right? Like, I'm not going to arrange a pre-meeting to a meeting for my family. I don't know if that makes maybe. But there are things that work out in one area that can be applied to the other, and so why not think of those things in both ways and integrate both into your life? Like, there's just funny antidote, but I, in recent years, even started buying clothing that I could wear both to work and outside of work.
Yeah. No, I
sort of like, why do I have these separate wardrobes?
No, I think it's great, but I do think it's a lot of it is a cultural thing. A lot of it is female, 100% female, because I was just having this conversation with friends over the weekend about how women in general are not the best, still till this day, no matter how successful, they're not the best negotiators of their own package, right? Meaning, like, their benefits and their signing bonus and all that, in general, women tend to shortchange themselves, right? And it's the famous example of if male female applying for a job and the female reads the job description, if she doesn't meet all 10 criteria, she initially goes, I'm not the guy. I'm not going to apply. And the male counterpart goes, oh, I could do 2 of the 10. I'm good. I'm applying.
I can do it. Yeah.
and I'm exaggerating a little bit for comic relief, but I think there is part of it is, the women and the traditional thing of if a woman is, too loud and over talks and, she's abrasive and pushy, and, the male counterparts, he's, a go-getter and aggressive and all of that. And then you add the Latina layer, right? Which is, a whole other thing of you need to remain feminine and you can't overtalk, and, and we have
in your place.
Exactly. And it doesn't matter how successful the Latina, it's sort of ingrained in our DNA, right? And it becomes this challenge within ourselves, right? And so I think it's really admirable that you say, okay, well, that also has to stop. I'm one human. I don't need to, be divided. But I never understood this till I was much older, that my mother always used to say, don't ever stop being feminine if that's who you are. You don't have to wear boxy suits that are not attractive.
Yeah.
Lose your essence of being a beautiful Latina woman. You don't need to stop doing that either, right? It's just finding a balance, like everything in life. It's about a balance, right? And so finding your personal boundaries, and then your boundaries to everybody else, and your personal balance, and then the balance with everybody else. But so I'm going to switch a little bit, but I really want to hear your answer on this one. So because you are the successful Latina, the family, the gift expectations. How do you handle that, Jamie? Because there must be big Latina families, whether you've got the family back in the Dominican or Mexico or Costa Rica or Argentina or wherever, there's all these expectations. How do you handle that first for yourself, and then how do you address it? Because I think that's something really helpful for everyone listening to us.
That is, before we got on the call, I said to you, that's a tough one. I've had to, I think, rethink that one many years now. And what my solution and I guess my recommendation to anyone else in this position is you decide how much you want to give and just give it to who you want to give to. Buy the gift that you want to give to whomever it is that you want to do it to. I just do not limit yourself. I know that we are driven by guilt in many of the decisions that we make because it is what was probably ingrained in us.
Right. Yes.
But you will feel so much better about yourself when you understand that you truly, if you want to give a gift to someone because you want them to have it, because you see them in it, and you know that they will enjoy it, you will feel so much better about that by just giving it to them if that's what you feel they deserve from you. That's something that you want to give. One other option that I've thought of, I haven't done it in recent years, but it might be something I do somewhere down the line that I've heard of, is to choose one person a year to give an extraordinary gift to. So you might have like a high budget each year, or if you have a budget each year, maybe you spend 30% of it towards one particular person. So maybe there are 10 people in your life that you absolutely love and adore and you want to give gifts to every year, but maybe each year you just do one large gift to one person in the family, and then you just rotate on an annual basis until you get to 10, and then you just rotate again, but maybe the list gets longer at that point. So that I have been navigating at in the first way that I mentioned, which is just trying to remove the guilt. And, I'm going to gift what I want to gift to whom I want to gift to. And some people might not make the list and some people might, and it is what it is. And whoever doesn't like it, see, the thing is that I'm not giving a gift to receive one. I'm giving it because I want to. So if you are expecting an exchange, right, I would just sit with it. It's like, what does gifting really mean? And if it's really important to you, then maybe you need to put pen to paper and like, how much do I want to give to each person? And what does it mean to me? And what will it mean to them as well? I think that's a good way to navigate the question. Is some people don't really appreciate gifts. Maybe they want more of your time or and that could be true for a lot of our family members where, Athea might appreciate you coming over on a Sunday and having a meal with her. Grandmother might prefer you come and pay her a visit as opposed to give her a gift. So I think it's just being thoughtful around how you give and how the person is going to receive the gift. And then removing the guilt and gifting to whom you want to gift. It's just, it's 2025. You are the master of your life and your decisions. You're the CEO of your life. You decide. That's how I would put it.
I love that so much that I really, really hope that people listen to you. Because removing the guilt is so important, right? In so much of what we do, right? It's like, well, the family member or the close family friend or whatever, they're going to have their expectations. They're going to have their presumptions or whatever it is. But like, right, we can't fall into that with the guilt, right? With the, oh my God, what are they going to say? And what's the gossip going to be? And, oh, Karina only gave me this, but gave so-and-so that. And, so I love how you put it in such a beautiful, warm manner of like, what do you really want to gift people? And what are you doing for you gifting people? Like, what does this mean for you? And putting it back on like, your, not to be too woo-woo, but like your heart center, right? Like back on yourself and saying like, I'm gifting because I really want to give these gifts to people. And again, it can be a material gift. It can be a gift of time. It can be a gift of a call. It can be so many things. Gifting can be a big thing. But I love that you're taking out that financial pressure expectation out of it and saying, okay, they may have that And that's fine. You're allowed to have that, but that's not why I'm doing this. And if
Right.
if you're unhappy with the size of the gift or the type of gift, or it's your problem, it's not mine. And also not having expectations the other way too, which I think is also hard, right? I think that's also a maturity thing. Or as we get older, it's like,
Yeah.
I'm gifting to gift. I'm not gifting to expect something back.
Yeah. And I also think, like, if you, let's say, for instance, you give someone a gift and they tell you that they are unhappy with the gift, that is information for you. That is information for you to be able to further question what their expectation. That might open up a whole nother conversation about what that person expects from you and why. And it offers a great opportunity to navigate, what is this relationship about? Is this a transactional relationship? Why are you expecting more from me? It's different. It's going to be different for everyone, but it's sort of, why didn't you like this gift? And what would you have expected and why? And, and that's up to you to decide if that's a relationship you want to keep, or, maybe it's a great opportunity to further deepen the relationship by understanding the basis of it. It's just like, what are they expecting of me that that this isn't enough, whatever the case might be. So I do think that while it can be difficult to navigate, it can offer a great opportunity to build on some of the relationships that you already have.
Oh my gosh, Jamie, that is amazing. You're full of this great knowledge today, my friend. I mean, it's very hard to do, but so valuable. Like, it's, you don't have to do it in an aggressive manner, and you don't have to confrontar, like, you don't have to attack, but
Yeah.
you could be very nice about it. But you're right, it may lead to a closer relationship, or it may lead to the truth about something, right? Like, I have a family member, and no matter what you gift her, she hates everything anyone ever gives her. Like, it is not a financial thing. It's just, she just hates everything people give her. And
she doesn't like gifts.
She just, yeah. And so it reaches a point where you're like, okay, at a certain point, you just ask, right? Like, at a certain point, it's like, well, what do you want? Is there something in particular within, of course, a budget that, you can work out and be like, is there something you really want that I could get you? Because I know that you have your own tastes, and, try to be nice about it, because you don't want to go on the attack. But it's worked for me throughout the years. And at this point, I give her what I know she actually wants and what she's going to return. Because it's like that whole moment of, like, you've worked really hard, you've put some thought process into, like, gifting someone, and then they return it every single time.
Yeah, so that's a tough one. No, that's great.
So I love that idea of, okay, let's have a conversation about it. And if you're upset or you're gossiping entre la familia about the gift, let's talk about it, because if not, it's going to fester from this year into next year. And then in December of 26, we're going to be in the same, moment. As always, we're about to run out of time, because you and I could talk about all of this forever. But I had one last question for you, and you did love it, but I kind of love it. So if you had to have, like, a 3-word mantra, or that moment, like, for that Latina first gen, super successful, like, before they maybe buy the gift or show up at the family event or have to set up boundaries, like, what is that thing that you say to yourself that maybe they could, or how they could develop sort of a mantra around that? Does that make sense, my question?
Around attending the event, or
attending
gifting?
the event or gifting, all of it. Like, I'll give you an example. Like, whenever I'm in a difficult situation or questionable, or I take a step back and say, I can only control what I can control right now. And that's my mantra, as opposed to, like, I can't control what they're going to like or not like. I can't control, like, or what their expectations are, or how un-PC they're going to be with their comments. But I can control what I can control. right?
Mm-hmm.
So is there
Yes.
something like
Yes.
that?
My mantra has always been everything is temporary. Everything is temporary. And in that can work in every moment. It can work in a moment of difficulty and it can work in a moment of joy, right? And it could work in a moment of gifting, deciding what to gift and how much to spend. And there's so many different directions that you could go in with that. But that has always been my mantra, just personally and both professionally and personally, is this moment is going to pass. So how do I want to take it in? Do I need to take it in? And how do I want to remember it? Right? There's so many ways that you can think about it. But I would definitely, I would say that's my three-letter mantra. I would recommend it to anyone this holiday season. If you're walking into a gathering that maybe you're 90% sure of, just remember it's temporary. So enjoy that time with your family and ignore the ones that don't deserve your attention. And if you're thinking about gifts, again, like maybe it's about time and it's temporary, and just remember that as you make those decisions this year.
Oh my gosh, Jamie, I love this conversation. I want to do part 3, 4, keep going.
Oh my God, my cat's
I love your cat behind you. Thank you so much for your time and your beautiful advice to everybody during this holiday season. And Jamie and I gave you our mantras and our thoughts, but you can create your own. Just remember, try to work with the guilt. Don't let it impact you. Try to take a moment to breathe. Set those boundaries, whether it's a financial boundary, an emotional boundary, but you are allowed to set those boundaries. It's okay. You will still be loved for setting those boundaries. So thank you again, Jamie. And those of you that want more information on United Latinas, please go to our website, join us, become a member. Come meet with us. We'd love for you to be a part of this organization. And again, Jamie, thank you so much. Always love talking to you.
Thank you for having me. Happy holidays.
Happy holidays.
Feliz Navidad.